What I found was that, when Black communities or Black educators enter into higher education, they get caught in what I term a cycle of institutional neglect, anti-Blackness, and labor exploitation, acronym ENABLE, right? And so when they get into the institution, like Dr. Toya said, they are not set up for success. No onboarding, inadequate staffing, limited funding, the vision, the scope's not clear. And then oftentimes they have to deal with institutional drama that predates them getting into that space. But now it's their responsibility to deal with, right?
Yeah.
But what happens? They just don't lay down and take it. They have to perform foundational labor, building their divisions, their departments, their programs from the ground up. But they realize that this is an institutional responsibility, not a personal responsibility. I can't do the work of an institution, right? The participants in my study, said that they found that they had 18 distinct roles and responsibilities that were outside of their contract. And so, as a result, they said, I can't do this by myself. And so they sought help through institutional support, but they were met with barriers to institutional support, chief among them being institutional gaslighting, right? Racial microaggressions, hypervisibility when it comes to critique, but invisibility when it came to support. For example, Dr. Candia-Bailey's experience at her institution, she wasn't set up for success. She applied for an FMLA ADA accommodation and didn't receive the accommodation. So what did she do? She had to perform her foundational labor by supporting her division, even though there was a lack of institutional support, which led to a poor assessment. But when she went and said, I need help, she met barriers to that support, bullying, harassment, being blackballed. And then she resisted by advocating for herself to HR and the board, and was subsequently denied by both HR and the board. And then what happened? There was this personal impact, and she ended up actually transitioning through suicide and death. For me, individual solutions, number one, you got to know and understand the context under which you are working in. You are working in an anti-Black context. You can do what I do, which is establish workplace boundaries.
That's good.
It's not just something that's nice to do. It's something that's literally, for an African American, it's an act of resistance in the institution. And so, remember, boundaries are not what you want other folks to do. Boundaries are about what you do and do not do. A couple quick ones are, I don't have my email on my phone. When I go home, I go home. Yeah. Another one is, I don't build planes and fly them at the same time. I will give you great quality work, but I got to build the plane first, then test it, then fly it, because that's what matters to me, and that's what matters to the students. Good. And they still hired me. And then another one is that I don't let folks put meetings on my calendar without talking to me about it first. And so, all of those things will help to kind of reduce your time and help you to preserve, yourself for what matters most, and that's the students that you're serving. And then you'll be surprised that it'll rub people the wrong way a little bit at first, but then folks will be trained around how to treat you. So they just won't go to you for it. And you'll have a great time working with your students, working with your colleagues, and you'll be able to move much easier within the higher ed system. Then you can create pockets of safety for other Black educators and Black communities. And so for me, that's kind of what I do. We have trainings. And so one of the trainings I created, because I realized that, when educators come in, like we said, we don't really get onboarding. So I created a training for folks that work in Black student programs or working to create cohorts and cultural centers, called Program Design for Digital Equity. It's coming out in a couple of months, and it literally will train the practitioner how to create a sustainable program that works on their campus. The other thing that you all can do, especially those of you who may be administrators, those of you who may have some sort of a budget, you can come and bring us out and let us advocate for you. Oftentimes, there might be things that you might not be able to say within your institution, but if you contact Dr. Toya and say, hey, can you come to my institution? Can we do a program around this? Dr. Toya will be able to say and work with folks that you might not be able to work with.
And pay her worth. Pay her worth.
That's right. And so, for me, like, contact me. I'll come and we'll talk.